Evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. Good evening and welcome to our, South Florida chapter of the IBA's annual general meeting for this year, 2022. And as part of this event, we will also be having a very special speaker, Vincent Mirabelli, who is going to take us on the topic enterprise analysis, not as usual. Just a quick highlight of who Vincent is. Obviously very well certified, and as you can tell, spread not just in the business analysis itself, but from the management of projects for business analysis, as well as considering user experience and efficiency in delivery with his Six Sigma certification. Vincent has worked across multiple industries and sectors and is always key in driving cultures of high process performance and continuous improvement. He's a founding member of the Love Process Academy, also a very well sought out speaker. And as I mentioned earlier, a very certified professional in his own right. At this point, I'll hand the mic over to Vincent for him to take us on this wonderful topic that we have been excited to hear. Vincent, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thrilled to be with you, with you tonight to talk about a topic near and dear to my heart, because I've always been a bit of a square peg, with the phrase, the square peg in a round hole. I've been in business analysis. I've been a business analyst for many years. But I've always been on the business side. I've never, like, when people start talking to me about databases and SQL and Salesforce, I just sort of stare at them and nod, and I just like smile and like, because I have no idea what they're talking about. My niche, or for my American friends, my niche has always been on the business side, and so I do a lot of strategic business analysis, driving decisions from an organizational level. And so that's what I'd like to talk to you about here tonight. Now, hopefully I have operated the technology correctly, because as I said, I'm not a tech BA. So hopefully you all can see my screen and we're all good to go. If not, just let me know. One of the things that I like about having sort of a smaller crowd is, we've got the ability to interact, and this doesn't have to be unidirectional. So if you've got at any point you want to stop and have a conversation and then get a question, like, just come off mute. I think there's like seven of us. Let's have some fun. Let's learn some stuff, and let's make sure that you get something out of this. Now, let's talk about enterprise analysis. But before we do that, I want us to just take a pause and recognize where we are today. And where we are is in a place that is not normal. We've been at home for over 2 years. That's not normal, and it never will be normal. But what I think what this has done is it's forced us into a transition. It's forced us to evolve individually, but also organizationally. We need to move from our current state, or our old current state, to the future. Now, eventually, we're going to go back. There's going to be some return to normalcy, to what McKinsey calls the next normal. If that next normal looks like it did before COVID, then I think we've really, as a society and as employees and as businesses, we've screwed up, because we've missed an opportunity to do things better. We've missed an opportunity to evolve. And if we miss that, there may be we don't know when the next chance will be for us to change the way that we work and live and just, are. As much as things change, there are some things that fundamentally won't change. And I think business analysis as a discipline is one of those things, but it might not change, but it might look and feel different. Now, what is enterprise analysis? Because this is one of those things that I don't think is going to change. So what is enterprise analysis? This is straight out of Babok version 3, where it's actually not called enterprise analysis, it's called strategy analysis. But I certified under version 2. For me, it will always be enterprise analysis. It's like, you know, when a stadium gets a new name, it doesn't like, it changes, but like in your mind, it doesn't change. Like I mean, there's no reason for you to know this. I am a lifelong Miami Dolphin fan. I am not pandering. This is not like, oh, I'm in South Florida, so how can I suck up? No, if I had to go upstairs, I could show you all of the Dolphin jerseys that I've got, from Dan Marino to Reggie Bush. Like, it's just, I've got them all. And to me, where the Dolphins play will always be Joe Robbie Stadium. It's not whatever it's Sun Life now or whatever it is now. It's not. It's Joe Robbie. So when I talk about enterprise analysis, I'm going to use that term sort of interchangeably. Strategy analysis, enterprise analysis. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. But textbook, what does Babok say about strategy analysis? Well, strategy analysis is focused on defining the future and any transition states that are needed to address a business need, and defines the work that is required both by that business need as well as the scope of the solution. It covers our strategic thinking. It covers our ability to discover, to imagine possible solutions, and those solutions should enable the organization to create greater value for its stakeholders, its shareholders, its employees, and itself. Now, in strategy analysis, in the latest version of the Babok, there's a couple processes. It talks about, you know, the current state, talks about the future state, it talks about, you know, assessing, considering risk, managing change, but it never actually gets into, like, how do you do that? And to me, this was a significant gap. Like, it says you need to understand risk, but like, how do you do that? So, you know, one of the things that I've been sort of the drum that I've been beating over the last few years is, you know, how do we close that gap? How do we provide learning, provide education that allows us to then accelerate our careers and contribute in a much more strategic way? Nosa did and hopefully I pronounced your name correctly and didn't butcher it, but Nosa introduced me, talked about my certifications, talked about the letters after my name. I've joked that I have more letters after my name than I have in it. And that's, you know, that's fine. But my background is unrelated to business analysis almost entirely, or so I thought. Growing up, I was not I mean, I don't know anybody that grows up wanting to be a business analyst. I don't even think the discipline and the role existed when I was in school. Growing up, I was going to be the Prime Minister of Canada. Much like your president, just, you know, younger and better looking. And so my background is in the political sciences, and I actually have a specialization in international relations with a further specialization in international political economy. Now, why am I telling you that? Well, I think that having that background allows me to look at the way that business analysis is done in a very unique way. I don't look at them at business analysis as, you know, a series of activities and coming to a solution. It actually gives me this ability to look at it like nations on a globe. And so you get to take that top down view. And for me, business analysis is not about databases and pivots and whatever. It's actually about mindset. And so having this mindset, whether it's applied to a project or to an entire organization, gives you the unique ability to solve problems. I like to, just as a visual, I like to liken, my approach to problem solving, similar to like that scene in Avengers, I think it was Endgame, where Doctor Strange goes into that weird trance and he's looking at like a million different alternate universes where, he's trying to figure out if it's even possible for them to defeat Thanos. And then he comes out of his trance and he said, there's only one scenario where we win. And spoiler alert, I mean, the movie's been out for a few years, but spoiler, it's the one where Iron Man dies. Like, it's sort of like that. It's that ability to see all of the different possibilities, all of the different options, all of the different ways that they trickle downstream so that you can solve a problem. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to snap my fingers and make problems disappear like Thanos, not yet. But that's how I like to think of enterprise analysis. It's looking at the holistic problem and trying to solve it using the best possible solutions, much like what we do in project business analysis. So what does business analysis mean to me? Because I think that Babok version, it's a little bit incomplete. It's missing some stuff. People think that enterprise analysis is all about high-level organizational strategy. And to a certain extent, they're right. I mean, they're in the ballpark. But for me, it comes down to two things. It comes down to integration and alignment. It's integrating all of the different pieces of the organization and aligning them towards a common goal, common objective. Again, I'm going to give you a visual. It's like looking down on a 1,000-piece puzzle on a table, and all of the pieces are moving, and some of them are on fire, and it's up to you to figure out how to make that complete image. Does that make sense? Everyone with me so far? I hope so.
That does make sense. Yeah.
Tremendous. I like to give like visual thing. Like I will talk about coffee a lot, or pizza. And when I do my Six Sigma training, it's okay, what is the process of making coffee or making pizza? And I always do it before lunch, and it makes everyone so angry. But there you go. Here's another visual, and this is actually a visual that I did. If you haven't taken my my course on LinkedIn Learning in enterprise analysis, one, you absolutely should. It's one of the it's the best course on enterprise analysis on LinkedIn Learning. It's also the only course. But I give this visual of like an eagle, and like the eagle has the ability to soar high in the air, seeing the entire landscape. But then it also has the ability to dive down and attack a problem when it needs to, right? In the case of the eagle, it's looking for food. It's, in our case, we're looking for problems. We're looking for opportunities to take advantage of. So here's my basic thesis. This is why I wanted to talk to you today about enterprise analysis, because I think there's a huge opportunity for us. And my basic thesis is we need to get more business analysts moving into these strategic roles, because there's an opportunity for us to drive direct, significant positive change. And that potential is massive. Now, there's been so much focus on IT, on technology in the work that we do, but we've forgotten that we're business analysts. We add value and insight to the whole business. And there's never been a better time to get into that strategic realm than right now, because the field of work has actually been leveled. All of those things, think back to, when it's been like 2 years since I've been in the office. And I've got to go back soon, and I'm dreading it, and I'm terrified because I don't want to. But think back to the people that had the advantage when you were in person, right? It's those extroverts. It's those people that are loud and boisterous and obnoxious, and can just out yell you and get their point across just because they're louder. Well, I mean, that doesn't really work very well in an online, in Zoom or in Teams or in whatever you're using. It doesn't work as well. It's not as effective. That effect has been neutralized. And what it's done is it's created this vacuum where introverts, ambiverts, many of which, I mean, not to generalize, but that's business analysts by and large are either introverted in nature or ambiverted. It's given us the space that we can fill with value and with insight. And so we've got to take advantage of this moment in time. And that window is closing. And this is what scares me. So why should you care? Why should you pay attention? Why should you even, like, why do you need to listen to me? Well, I think we're missing out on that opportunity. And I think the opportunity is not just with us. It's actually an opportunity for us to contribute even more value to our organizations. But there's something holding us back. Something is preventing us from moving forward. And I think I know what it is. But I'll tell you later. Because for years, the career path, as it was described to me, was, you never want to be a business analyst for long. You become a BA and then you move into project management or, product ownership, or you become a scrum master, or you become a senior business analyst. I did the PM thing. I hated it. I did the product thing. I hated it. I'm in my heart, I'm a business analyst that I help solve problems. But what I want to put forward is there's actually another path, and it's one that's not explored very often. And it's that path that allows us to contribute to our organizations at the very, very macro level, at the highest level possible. And I think that's where we can have the greatest impact. And that's why I really want to see more business analysts moving into these strategic roles. So that's you. And obviously I have a preference, but why should our organizations care? Well, most organizations are set up fairly similarly. You've got, your finance folks, you've got your operational folks, you've got your technology folks, you've got your strategy folks. It's all set up like siloed. And generally speaking, business areas have a hard time seeing outside of their silo. They only value what's valuable to them, but they don't always appreciate the larger picture. So, I mean, if you work in, I'll apologize in advance if anyone does, but if you work in data management, then for every project, for every initiative, for everything you do, you only see through the lens of data management. So you only, if it doesn't affect how data is managed, you don't care. Now I pick on data management just because it's the thing that popped into my head, but the fact is every silo, every structure behaves that same way. If something doesn't fit into their view of the world, it gets ignored. And that's true of almost every area. The person or the role that has the greatest ability to piece the puzzle together is the business analyst. The problem, though, is that most BAs live in your IT function. And so again, they might see that bigger picture, but they have to play nice and push the objectives of IT. So you end up, trying to solve problems with technology, because we all know that technology solves every problem. Pause for laughter. But when you do that, you're missing out on the people and the process side. And to me, there's a huge opportunity to solve problems through people and process. Because at the end of the day, technology can only do so much. Technology is sort of funny. It's an enabler. Technology has the ability to enhance good people and process, but it has the ability to expose and actually make worse if your people and process functions suck. So technology on its own is not going to solve problems for you. And we need to see that bigger picture. So here's the good news. you already possess many of the skills, the traits, the attributes that you need to be successful in strategic analysis. For my money, the way that business analysts probe and elicit and facilitate and piece that puzzle together, it is unmatched. We just have to take that view of how we define our current state, explore our future state, identify, manage risks, and enable change. And we need to just expand it a bit. We need to take a step back. So for your consideration, let's talk about what you can do right now to start thinking more strategically, to start moving into more of an enterprise mindset. And this comes from a program that I put together at the beginning of the pandemic when I was bored, called The Essentials of Enterprise Analysis. Now, this is like really, really high level because we've only got, an hour, and I'd like to leave some time for questions. So if you want to know more, reach out and we'll have a conversation. But I want to take you through a few of the exercises that I did as part of putting together this program, because I think it'll help you have a deeper understanding of your organization in the context of your organization. So it's going to help you, tomorrow when you're in the office or you're, connected virtually. It's also going to potentially help you when the zombie apocalypse breaks out inevitably. Although at that point, you're probably not going to be concerned with enterprise analysis. You're going to have bigger fish to fry. But we've all seen on TV how that goes down.
And you're going to be the Prime Minister of Canada.
And I'm going to be the Prime Minister of Canada, because I'm just going to declare myself Prime Minister of Canada. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. But if someone else comes up and says, "Hey, I want to be the Prime Minister," we'll share. We're a fairly nice people. We'll come to some agreement. So you'll probably notice throughout the slides that I've shown you, I have a very specific style when it comes to presentations. I use very bold, big images. I don't include a lot of words on the screen. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I think it looks really cool. I like it. It's simple. It's effective. Two, it ensures that you're listening to me, because you can't just take a screen grab of the screen and just tune out. You actually have to pay attention to what I'm saying. And I think, the people that do this and do what I do want to, the value is not in the slides. It's in the words. It's what we share. There's nothing that I hate more than going to a meeting or a session and all the person does is read off the screen or off their, their slide deck. Because I mean, I like to think I'm fairly intelligent. If that's what you were going to do, just send it to me and I'll read it. Ask me to read it and it'll get done. But don't bring me to a meeting and then read. I don't need a bedtime story. Now, the third reason that I do it is I often don't know what I'm going to say before I'm saying it. I think I know enough about the topic that I could just talk on for an hour. So I don't always know what I'm going to say. And this presentation is different every time I do it because of that, which I think makes it fun. Now, that's my typical style. The next few slides will be the exception. I wanted to stick to my style, but I wanted to make sure that you've got something tangible that you can take away. So, if you don't get the PDF, or you don't get a PDF, I haven't shared a PDF, so whatever, you can take a screen grab and work through some of the exercises, tonight or tomorrow or whenever, because they are super helpful when it comes to starting down that road of enterprise analysis. So the first thing I want to start with is understanding business drivers. So what is a business driver? Well, a business driver is a resource, process, or condition that is vital for the continued success and growth of a business. Now that's from technopedia.com. That is a definition, and that's why I read it, because I knew I was going to say that. But I want to take that definition a little bit further. I want to add something that I think is important. It's a business driver is that thing or that series of things that motivates your organization to take action. Those things could be, financial, they could be social, environmental, cultural. Those drivers could be anything. But it's what causes your organization to sit up and take notice. Now, if you were ever wondering what truly motivated your organization, think back to March of 2020, when the world was first, going into panic about the coronavirus, and organizations were forced to face a reality that they had fought for years: a distributed workforce, people that didn't have to go to a building to get something done. Think back to that moment and think back to what was the first thing that your organization saved? Because that's what mattered to them. And I think back to that time, and the organization that I was with at the time, the first thing that they did was they made sure that the call center was set up and able to take calls again. Because that was, at the time, what was important. They were a very customer-centric, customer-driven organization, and that's what they wanted to save. Now, this made me painfully aware of the fact that I actually don't matter in my organization. Now, I mean, I help them save money and time and be more efficient, but that's not a significant driver of change. It didn't matter. And that's actually why I did this course, because for about a month, I wasn't too busy. I had a couple meetings, but I wasn't too busy. Now, understanding what motivates your organization is actually one of the first steps involved in getting that picture of the enterprise view, because it's going to tell you what's important. It's going to tell you what's a priority, and it's actually going to tell you what's not a priority, right? I learned I'm not a priority. Now, here's the interesting thing about organizations. I have this theory that there's actually no such thing as an organization. An organization is just an entity that is created, and it's fictional. But what is an organization? It's a collection of individuals. And so if you can understand what motivates the individual, you can understand what, and you understand where they sit in the organization. You can understand what's going to be important to that organization. So if you've got a president or a chief executive or whoever your tippy top of the org chart is, that is very financially motivated, then every decision is going to be driven by dollars and cents. Doesn't matter if it makes the customer's life easier. If it doesn't translate into real hard dollar savings, it doesn't matter to them. It's not important. It doesn't get them to take action. So here's our first bit of homework, because in my heart, I am a teacher. I want you to think about, what are your personal drivers? What is it that motivates you to act? And then how does that align to your organization? Are you working in a place where your drivers align? And if you do, you're probably really happy and happy. And then I would say, are you hiring? But if you're not, it leads to this conflict, right? Now, I want you to do this, but number one, I'm not going to be holding you to it. We're not taking attendance. I'm not going to force anybody. But I really want you to think about this, because I think it's important. And I don't want you to do it now. I want you to actually get deep on this. I want you to get below the surface. So when I was putting together my program, the essentials of enterprise analysis, I went through to make sure that these exercises made sense. And so I did it on myself and, whatever. And I actually learned a ton about myself. And one of the things that I learned that I guess I was just not self-aware to recognize is how much I need to be in control in a lot of different settings. And when I give up control, it means that I trust you. It means that I have a near total trust, because I'm the guy who wants to do everything himself just to make sure that it gets done the way that I want it. And it's a problem, and I'm working on it. But there was some good to come out of this increased level of self-awareness. This revelation actually made me much more self-aware of my behavior, but it made me much more aware and empathetic to the people that I was working with. And that's, and the people that I was living with. I became a lot more empathetic and sensitive to what they needed and what they valued. It was almost like there was this force that was flowing between us and all living things. And I was able to move rocks with my mind. And if someone hasn't made that into a movie, they probably should. But it was this idea that I was connected to people on a much more meaningful level, and I could then approach their needs and giving them what they wanted, recognizing that, they've just got some control issues. They don't want to give up control, and I need to do a better job of managing that. Remember, organizations are just collections of people. So if you can understand that micro of the individual, it becomes a lot easier to appreciate the macro of the organization. All right. Now, I shared earlier that my background was in political sciences, and I shared that. I'm proud of it, but that's not why I shared it. I shared it because it was important in making the next point, and it's one that we've touched on already, about how we solve business problems. More often than not, stakeholders take a very narrow view of business problems. I picked on data management earlier again. I'll try not to do them again. But they look at it through this silo, through this single lens. But in order for us to be successful at the strategic level, at the enterprise level, we need to be able to solve problems through multiple lenses. Now, I hear you thinking it, screaming at me from your screen, that you always do this. You always look through multiple lenses. You always engage all of your stakeholders, and you always understand their needs and their wants and their requirements. And by the way, I believe you. I know that you do. My issue is not with you. My issue is with them, because ultimately they're the ones that are driving the solution. I tend to be, my default is, I'm very solution agnostic. As long as the solution addresses the requirements, I don't care what we do. But that's not always the case for all of our stakeholders. And so we need to get them to shift their perspective. We need our stakeholders not to argue from their position, because sometimes those positions conflict. And when there's conflict, we end up with compromise. Now, compromise sounds good, but with compromise, nobody's really happy. We don't have agreement. We've just got a few people that have decided what hill they're going to die on. It's not a good place to be. What we need to do is help our stakeholders and help ourselves overcome some of our cognitive biases, some of the things that prevent us from being the best that we can be. And that is in ourselves, that is in our stakeholders, that is in our organizational culture. And if you want to know what I'm talking about when I talk about bias, I'm talking about like cognitive biases. I mean things like my favorite words of all time in business. That's not how we do it, or that's not how that'll never work here, or we tried that and it didn't work, or how does Google do something? You're not Google. So why are you trying to solve problems like Google? You need to get out of that mindset, and you need to look at things through different multiple lenses. That's how we're going to get the best possible outcome for us, for our stakeholders, and ultimately for our organizations. So we're going to move on to our second homework assignment. No, I'm just kidding. No more homework. No more homework. Because I want to talk about, like, I think I've painted this like sort of lovely picture of enterprise analysis and how, you know, you get to operate at the highest level, and you get to engage with, you know, the leaders in your organization. And the reality is it's not all, you know, it's not all cinnamon and candy, to coin a phrase. There are a lot of challenges. The biggest one is actually articulating what enterprise analysis is. You know, most people know what a business analyst does, but people don't know what an enterprise analyst does. And so, you know, drawing the distinction, but also making the case for strategic analysis is really, really difficult. Now, one of the ways that I've done it is I've just done it. I have spent my entire career fighting to have a seat at the table, and not just have a seat, but actually have a voice where people can hear you and gather your thoughts and hear what you have to say and see how you solve problems. Now, that is easier said than done, admittedly. But once you get that seat, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to show how you think. And when I've done that, when you ask very strategic questions, or you ask about particular risks, or you ask about, you know, things that maybe other folks haven't put together because you've pieced the puzzle together. Remember, you're looking down and you're piecing that puzzle together. It's an invitation to a conversation where someone can say, how did you think of that? How did you ask that question about cybersecurity? Aren't you the business guy? Like, what do you know about cybersecurity? Oh, well, you know, this is what I do, and I do strategic business analysis, and I look at it holistically. And so it gives you the ability to get the seat at the table and then just hold it, because you are seen as a strategic contributor to your organization, and your voice starts to carry weight. It's not easy, but it is possible. So every talk that I do comes from somewhere. And I like to start every talk with a story. But I did this one a little bit different. I'm actually holding the story to the end, because if I did the story at the beginning, I would just spend the rest of the time crying. It's traumatic. It was a very stinging experience for me. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they have a bad day at the office. They go to the bar, or they go to paintball or whatever. I put together keynotes. So, I mean, you know, to each their own, I guess. But I was working in this organization many, many years ago, where I was asked to do a pretty extensive options analysis. And, you know, took my time, did my research, came up with what I thought were some solid suggestions, was very confident that the recommendation that I was bringing forward was the right choice strategically for the organization. Presented my findings to my boss at the time. She said, "This is great, thanks. But we've already decided that we're going to do this instead." Well, you know probably how that goes, right? Like, eventually, the leader made the choice. The project was an absolute disaster. And I've gotten a pretty, you know, good sense of when I can see the train about to go off the tracks. But what they did was they actually shelved my work. They made it disappear. And stupidly, I didn't keep a copy of it because I trusted my leader at the time. So when people started asking questions, well, how did you come up with this solution? How did you do this? How did you blah, 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 blah? There was no way of proving that, you know, some guy had done the work to make a recommendation that was completely opposite of the path that they had chosen. What my leader at the time had wanted was they had hoped that my work would have just validated the decision that they were going to make. And that sucked. I was mad. I was angry. And it was then that I realized that, I'm actually part of the problem. The problem was I wasn't making the decision. I was making a recommendation, but I wasn't making a decision. And until business analysts are involved in that decision-making process, until we are the leaders making the decisions and not just doing the grunt work, we're going to keep finding ourselves in these situations. So I said earlier, I think I know what the problem is. And I think the problem is us. I think we need to step into our knowledge and our experience and recognize how critical it is to the continued success of our organizations. We need to not only have that seat at the table, but we need to ensure that we're the ones driving the decisions, because we are the ones that are best equipped to make those recommendations, because we do look at the whole piece. We look at the whole organization to come up with the right approach. With that, I want to open the floor up to any questions that you have at this time.
Sir, quick question. When there's a breakdown of the business drivers, right? So and I'm definitely going to check out the site vincentmirabelli.com.
Oh, you definitely should. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I just wrote down that if I don't at least spend 15 minutes on that, and it's probably a waste of time. So essentially, like, what is the from a perspective of what you've discovered, is you're saying that the business drivers are key to understanding cost procedures, cost pressures, like whole market CX, like, right? So some of the key metrics that you've
potentially, right? Like, if your organization doesn't care about customer satisfaction,
right,
then CSAT and all that stuff doesn't matter. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If it does matter, then you are going to have customer satisfaction metrics. You are going to have net promoter score metrics. You are going to have these different measures of good, right? But if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
So the cost process, like a net promoter score, for example, is it cost per click? So is there a breakdown of cost per click, cost per measure, cost per CPM, cost per click? Like
it's contextual to the organization, right? Like if one of your drivers is reducing your cost per click, if you're like in an e-com and you're trying to like reduce cost per click, then all of your projects should actually drive towards reducing that metric, right? You want to have a lower cost per click, because it means you're acquiring customers at a lower rate. If that's not a driver for you, if it's like, oh, that's just the cost of doing business,
right,
then it doesn't matter. So I mean, it's hard to answer the question because it's actually very contextual to the organization, right? So if you are looking at your organization and that is a thing that matters to them, then that's like, when you're talking about things, that's what you should be talking about.
Okay.
How do we reduce our click rate, or our cost per acquisition? How do we increase customer retention? How do we increase customer satisfaction? Right? Everything should map to that. And this is where, like, it's funny when I see organizations with like objectives or statements like, we're gonna increase innovation. Like, what does that mean? How are you, like, what does that mean? You're going to increase innovation? We're going to be the most innovative insurance company in the world. Like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? But if they say that, then cool.
Yeah.
Then cool. But then is it words? or are you actually backing it up with action? Like, do your projects map to being innovative? Because if you say we want to be innovative, now I'm on a rant, man. If you say we want to be innovative, but then you punish people when they make mistakes, well, then you actually don't want to be innovative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So a business driver, an enterprise business driver is there a break? I mean, is there like you said this is a decision making process, and then this decision making process, and it's vital to continue the success and growth of business. So a process or condition. So when you say the word condition, it basically means that you're giving clients what they want. You're embellishing. You're giving clients what they want. You're obsessing about value, and the customer's delighted, right? So
Sure.
is that the core value add as either a developer or as either a developer or a tester, or even the business themselves?
I mean, ultimately, right? Like as a dev or as a tester, you're not interacting with the customer, but the products that you create need to satisfy some customer need, right? So I mean, so it should relate, but you might not feel it, you might not see it, but at the end of the day, like everything should be driving towards achieving that objective. And so does that sort of make sense?
It's objective driven, not subjective driven.
Correct. Because ultimately, I mean, that strategy is going to come from your leadership. They're going to say, like, this is what matters. So these are the 4 things. These are the 4 priorities for this year. Like, they're going to tell you, but then you have to look at, well, are they just saying it so that it looks good? Or are they saying it and they actually mean it? Because you can tell.
Oh, so you could tell a real client from not a real client.
Well, not even the client. I'm talking like leader. Like if you have a president in your company, right, and they say, we want to really focus on customer satisfaction this year. We want to improve customer satisfaction, but nothing is done to actually improve the client experience, the customer experience. Then they actually don't want to improve customer satisfaction. They just want to say they want to improve customer satisfaction. Okay, and there's a big difference there, man. There's a big difference.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
Then, it's like there's yes. So there's essentially a whole there's customer satisfaction and recognition of what an enterprise driver is, and that makes a whole lot of sense. Your background is in which business practice, sir?
My professional background?
Yes, sir.
You name it, man. I'm a certified business analyst. I'm a project management professional. I've got certifications in change, Lego Serious Play, customer experience. I just passed the IIBA cybersecurity exam like a month ago. Wow. Like I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Like I'm a Swiss Army knife of problem solving.
That's fantastic. That's unbeatable. So is it within pharma?
I see you, Carlos. I'm on you. I'm on you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wrap up real quick. Just getting the sector of where the most experience, where the research is based on.
So the research is just through my experience out in the world and talking to different organizations and working with organizations to help them operate better. But I also, and this is where I have to be a little bit careful, because I also have a day job. So I do this, but I have a day job in government and in the financial sector.
Oh, it's finance.
So I would say the majority is probably in the financial sector, but I have to be a little careful there.
That's fantastic.
I don't want to get myself in trouble. You got it.
Thank you.
You got it. I think Carlos dropped.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Oh, there he is. Oh, you just took your hand down. Okay.
Yeah.
You were at the top of my screen and then you disappeared.
Well, hey, I just want to thank you so much for all the great knowledge you dropped in on this meeting here today. And thank you to the last audience member that asked a bunch of great questions too. I wanted to ask,
my pleasure.
what advice do you have for BAs that are just starting out in their careers and want to be on this enterprise analysis trajectory? What do you wish you knew back before all the certificates?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's so the one thing I will say is, and I have this discussion with someone that you guys probably know, Danelkis Sarah, who I think was with the South Florida chapter and now is part of IIBA HQ. But we because she's also an enterprise analyst, and we talk about like how awesome it is once you get that enterprise view, how awesome it is, and then how hard it is to go back to, and I don't mean this to sound this way, but it's like being just a project BA where you don't get to see that bigger picture. And so, one of the things that I would probably tell myself if I had to go back and start is like to move into this faster, because I spent a lot of time working on projects and honing the skill of business analysis, and I don't regret that at all, because I think it's made me a very effective problem solver. But it would have been like get into this space sooner, because it's a lot of fun. Now, as far as advice to get into that space, I think you have to be patient. Don't try to rush it, but just make sure that when you do have, when you are presenting to, your project sponsor, or to when you're coming up with solutions or options, try to think strategically and try to think outside of just your project, but how your project fits into the larger organizational goals. And then just make comments and ask questions to that end. And I think if you can do that and have that patience where you're not trying to rush things, eventually it'll catch someone's eye, and then you can start to make that move into a more strategic role. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You got it. Who's next? You're on with Vince.
I have a quick one.
Next caller, yes. Who?
I have one. So I think so often it happens where like a decision's made and then everyone's stuck having to piece things together, like you said, doing grunt work. And sometimes it's just like an undefined decision or no decision at all. And don't ask any questions kind of decision.
Yeah. Randy, I get myself in trouble so much with this. I like to say I'm a professional pain in the ass, because I do ask those questions. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree. I'm the same. Like I want to know, and I feel like it should be visible to everyone, so
absolutely
we can that decision all the way through to the end. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on enforcing the importance of understanding and visibility and championing decisions throughout like the process of whether it's software development or even just projects. Or even business initiatives, and or does it just go, more so go to what you said before, what matters most to the organization? And if so, do you have advice on influencing or holding them to what matters, what they say matters, or what should matter in the company?
Yeah, so this is where you have to like, what you don't want to do is make a career limiting move.
Yeah.
Where you're calling out, hey, you said that customer satisfaction. Let's keep going with customer satisfaction. You said customer satisfaction mattered, and we haven't done jack on customer satisfaction. I'm calling you out. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But you can do it without like you. I think what I would suggest, and what I've tried to do to some level of success, is just try to model the behavior that you want in others. So I mean, like when I was younger, I was like, I am going to change the culture of this 110-year-old organization, and I am because I was young and stupid. You can't. You can't. So if the culture is one where decisions are made at the top and are driven down, and you're just supposed to say yes, no, okay. Like, actually, you wouldn't say no, because you'd get in trouble for that. But you just say yes, I will do that. Then that's the culture of the organization. And so back to my earlier point, like If that doesn't align with you, then you have to think about that. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's probably not the answer you were hoping for. It's not an easy answer, but I think it's true. Like you have to decide for yourself, is this a place where I can be my best? And you know what? It's all, now I'm also empathetic to, it's hard to leave, especially if you don't have something else lined up. So you have to just look at it honestly and say, look, can I be good because of all the other stuff that I've got? Like, you know, I look at, you know, the doing this and the training and all the other stuff that I do. And so when I'm having a crappy day because people don't want to hear from me because I am a pain in the ass, I have to think, like, am I okay with being ignored? You know what I mean? And in the end, like, it comes to, okay, well, I mean, I have people, and this is not a humble brag. This is just like I have people all over the world that want to hear what I have to say. That's kind of cool. I have a course on LinkedIn Learning. Well, I almost dropped some knowledge here. I have a single course at present on LinkedIn Learning. Like, that's kind of cool. I have my first course. Not the last. More to come on that later this year. But like that is cool. So like, cool. The people in my organization don't want to listen to me. Cool. Like, it's actually to their detriment, because at the end of the day, as much as I'm a pain in the ass, I'm doing it because I'm trying to help you. And if you don't recognize that, that's on you. It's not on me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Getting really vulnerable here.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I mean, I think you're right. Sometimes ultimately it's like, what can you do? Sometimes you have like an opportunity.
Yeah. And not every day is good, right? Like, everyone has crappy days. Yeah. But if you're having like nine crappy days out of 10, then you got to think about that. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we are in the age of the employee right now. Like, there's tons of opportunity to join a new organization, to do your own thing. Like, it's, the sky is the only person that holds you back is you.
That's so true. Awesome.
And I know, you know, we've all got things that we face and like stuff like that stops us. I get that. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not looking at this just through my lens of like, why can't you just do what I do and you'll be successful? No, we're different people. We come from different places, right? So it's like, I'm not trying to just say like, just do whatever you want, but you have to look at it through that lens of like, can I be happy, or do I need to try to find somewhere where I can be happy and get to be myself? I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. I like to talk about other stuff besides just like, you know, business analysis stuff. I like to get deep on stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways. Last chance. Last chance. Carlos.
I think that's a clap.
Or is that a clap? Oh, thank you, my friend.
A round of applause.
Thank you. I'll stop sharing so that I can cede control back.
All right. So thank you so much, Vincent. I mean, Vince, this was an awesome session and I learned a lot, and I hope I'm sure everyone else did. The questions were really good. And I feel like I know a little bit more about what enterprise analysis is. It was really helpful that you mentioned strategic analysis, because I honestly, that was a good clarification for me as well.
Yeah.
On that. And a lot of good advice, not just business analysis advice, but good life advice. So I appreciate that.
I try.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pause